All right, let's talk Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, the Seahawks made a lot of headline-grabbing moves throughout this offseason up to this point. We know Geno Smith traded, Metcalf traded, Lockett no longer in Seattle. Cooper Kupp has arrived. A lot of attention on those moves, but the Seahawks quietly are making a massive under-the-radar move, ready to unleash their next great superstar. No one's talking about this, but it's part of a really good strategy by Seattle. We'll get into that in just a second. But first, I'm Nick, that's Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Seattle Seahawks, like I said in the opening there, made a lot of big moves, mainly pertaining to the offensive side of the football. But when you break down what the Seattle Seahawks are really doing, outside of the major headline-grabbing decisions, they're setting up to unleash the next generation of a Seattle Seahawks playmaker. Let's go into what the Seahawks are doing in terms of their defensive line, their front seven, and then we'll explore some data on the other side about this breakout star from Seattle and what the Seahawks, are doing to unleash them. So let's pull up this report. This is courtesy of Perplexity AI. It's kind of my favorite AI to use. They don't sponsor us or anything, but good resource to use. And this is just breaking down the moves the Seahawks have made from a high level, talking about their front four, front seven. Obviously, they brought Reed back. He had a really good season last year. I think it was a good move, good player. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, who at his peak was a game wrecker. He's on the other side of 30. He has some injury concerns, but he still has some gas in the tank. He should be a nice piece if he can stay healthy in the certain situations. And of course, they restructured Nwosu's deal, who's a nice little playmaker, kind of an underrated player, freeing up some cap space that they likely just use to basically turn around and hand DeMarcus Lawrence. So when you look at these moves, bringing back Reed, bringing back Nwosu, restructuring his deal, which allows him to go out and bring in Lawrence, it's clear the Seattle Seahawks are setting up sort of a legion of pass rushers, of playmakers on the defensive line, and that's because they want to unleash the next great Seattle Seahawks superstar defensive player, and that's Byron Murphy. Let's go ahead and pull up this next graphic here. I know it's a lot of data here. It's just really breaking down the pass rush win rate and the run defense win rate, the run stop percentage, if you will, of all rookie defensive linemen going back to the 2013 NFL season. And there's a lot of stuff on there, lots of players on there, obviously. And this is according to the count at announced stat. So just so everyone's account stat, so that way everyone's familiar from the source. But you can see right near the top of the list on the top part of the screen, you see Aaron Darnold, right? So obviously we know this is a list with a lot of great names. And just to the right of Darnold, in terms of having a better pass rush win percentage, is Byron Murphy. In fact, only one defensive lineman in the past 12 years has had a better rookie season pass rush win rate than Byron Murphy did as a rookie, and that's Jalen Carter of the Philadelphia Eagles. You can see him there all the way on the bottom right. Byron Murphy was better than Aaron Donald. He was better than Vita Vea. He's better than Chris Jones. Across the board, he's been better than everybody except Jalen Carter. Pass rush win rate is basically a stat that says when you're one-on-one in the pass rush game, are you winning it? And only one player in the last 12 years as a rookie defensive lineman was better than Murphy. Murphy is clearly a future superstar for the Seattle Seahawks. And when you have a future superstar, what do? You surround him with weapons. You create those one-on-one opportunities. And that's exactly what the Seahawks have done here with these moves. Bringing back Reed. Of course, we know Williams is still in the fold. Bringing in DeMarcus Lawrence. Restructuring Nwosu so they can get Lawrence. They're surrounding Murphy here with playmakers, with disruptors, so that way Murphy can get those one-on-one opportunities so he can wreck shop. The Seahawks are expecting Byron Murphy in year 2 to turn these wins into sacks and tackles for loss and forced fumbles and all that kind of good stuff. And you can see by the strategy, and I think it's a smart one, they're betting all in on Byron Murphy, and based on the numbers, it's a good bet. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor of today's video, and that's Penalty Verdict. Have you ever wanted to know if other people saw the same bad call you did during the big game? I know I certainly did. With Penalty Verdict, you can vote on penalty calls in real time in both NFL and college football games. Engage with a community of like-minded football fans and even community insights on referees' track records. That's interesting. Enjoy data-driven insights to help you have informed discussions about the games. Penalty Verdict is currently in a development phase. Again, they're trying to get ready for the season, and they would love to hear feedback. That's what we love about these guys. They're all about hearing feedback from smart fans like you guys. Let them know what features you want to see in the app for next football season. Sign up for the waitlist today with our link. It's penaltyverdict.com/Saturday morning inspection. Penaltyverdict.com/Saturday morning inspection. You'll see it in the description of the comment section below. Now's your chance. Provide your feedback. Let these guys ready so that way when the regular season comes, they'll have a great tool set for everyone to use. Again, penaltyverdict.com/Saturday morning inspection. All right, Mize, over to you now. What are your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks strategy here?
Yeah, Nick, I think what you see on this chart and when it breaks out what Byron Murphy has done, it's kind of unprecedented. And you talk about Jalen Carter, and if everyone you remember the chart, Jalen Carter is ahead of Byron Murphy, but Byron Murphy he seems more well rounded. I don't think anyone, because if you look the vertical access, Byron Murphy better run stopper than Jalen Carter was by far. We're talking about limited snaps for both these guys here, but overall, Byron Murphy, he seems like a beast on the field. He seems like a guy that can be an every down kind of player, a guy that can really just do it all. He's good at pass rush, he's good at run defense, and I think what you're saying is absolutely true here. They want to be able to unleash this guy on offenses, and I think we've seen what he's capable of. It's going to be difficult to stop this guy once he gets going. I don't think he was really showcased last year the way that really makes him the most effective. But I think now what Macdonald's doing, what Schneider's doing, they're building a unit to highlight Murphy to really get him into the fold. Because if you go back, and we did multiple film reviews on Byron Murphy last season, if you want to check them out, just showing how good this guy was, the flashes that he shows, the power. This guy is incredibly strong, incredibly gifted. What he did at Texas was absolutely phenomenal. What he did last year, I think this guy is going to be a real big time game changer for the Seahawks team. I just want to get on again, though, just how well rounded this guy is. He is, equal across the board when it comes run defense, when it comes tackling. This guy doesn't miss tackles. He had a high tackling grade last year, 70.3 in PFF's metrics, 73.3 tackling grade is very good. He was good in pass rush as well. This guy he really impressed me. And I think what you're seeing here, these moves that the Seahawks have made, able to bring in these guys, just kind of a bevy of talent across the line to unleash Byron Murphy. This is going to be a very threatening defensive line next year. And I think the Seattle Seahawks are really, they have something special here. And I think the Mike Macdonald defense, that's going to be the key. Because if Mike Macdonald knows one thing, that is how to unleash young, it doesn't even have to be a pass rusher, but just young defensive linemen in general. Case in point, look at the upcoming superstar Baltimore Ravens, Justin Madubuike. That guy was absolutely a beast. He doesn't nearly have the physical stature of a guy like Byron Murphy, but you want to see what Mike Macdonald is capable of doing with a young defensive lineman. Check out Madubuike's stats. Double-digit sacks last year, double-digit sacks the year before that. The way that he has developed on this defensive line, I think we can see similar precedent here for Byron Murphy. This is going to be very exciting for Seahawks fans come next season.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. Excuse me, with the Matabike comparison. Matabike is a guy who only had, I think, 3 sacks his first 2 seasons combined. Again, so low productivity in terms of getting to the quarterback, getting him on the ground. But suddenly Mike Macdonald comes in the picture and it becomes a Pro Bowl overnight. Now looks like a regular mainstay going to the Pro Bowl. And I think Murphy's going to follow that exact same trajectory. Only had half a sack last season, but his advanced analytics, when you dive deep into the numbers, he was so much better than that. And I think the Seattle Seahawks recognize this is the future of their defense. And we saw it in the Super Bowl last season. If you look at the 2 teams that competed, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they got waxed, they're obviously third straight Super Bowl appearance. They were wholly centered around Chris Jones, their star defensive lineman, with a lot of great pieces around him to kind of unleash him, right? That's the strategy. The Seahawks have 2 guys, I think Leonard Williams and now, of course, Murphy into the mix, but that's one of the main strategies you can use. Or you can be the Philadelphia Eagles, in which case you have an army of great disruptors. And I think the Seattle Seahawks, to be totally honest, are much closer to the Philly model, which is just outstanding, to the Kansas City Chiefs model, which is just really darn good. So you look at what Mike Macdonald's doing here. So he's basically retooling the defense to be among the best in the National Football League and making deep playoff runs and winning championships. And that's what we've seen from the Seattle Seahawks this offseason. The front office, Schneider, the entire organization has looked at this roster and said, there are pieces in place that will get us to a championship. Murphy, the defensive line, the plan there, that'll work us to a title. Geno Smith at this point probably won't, right? Lockett at this point probably won't, right? So moving off those guys, getting the assets, setting themselves up for medium and long-term success to eventually get to a title. Look, I'm not saying Darnold's the guy. I don't think he is. But now you have the capital in place. So you're not too tied down to find your future quarterback, to find your Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes or next Russell Wilson or whomever, get him into the fold and have the infrastructure ready for him to break out and become a star. Part of that is having the offense in place, but part of that is having a championship defense in place. And if you look at the Jalen Hurts led Philadelphia Eagles, Hurts is fantastic. He did a lot of handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley and letting that defense dominate, right? He was good leader. All nothing against Jalen Hurts. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts, actually. But the reality is we're going back to a new sort of an old new era of football where over the past decade it has been offensive teams winning Super Bowls almost exclusively, except for the weird aberration of, for example, the Legion of Boom in 13, the Denver Broncos a couple years later. For the most part, it's been the best quarterback and the most high-powered offenses. I think the vibe has shifted. It's now about defense. It's about being disruptive and having great front fours and great front sevens. The Seattle Seahawks are a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of setting up their team with what they drafted last year. They're following through with their plan this offseason. I think it's a great approach, and they're going to quickly follow, in my opinion, in line with teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's going to be Seattle and the Los Angeles Rams, to be totally honest with you, with their great front, duking it out at the top of the NFC West for many years to come. And if and when the Seahawks can get the quarterback position with a long-term quality player, this will be a championship team. And I think this is all part of what John Schneider and Mike Macdonald are really trying to do. And my one final question. Again, I love to throw you on the spot here. We're talking about defense here right now, and we know the defensive line is ready to unleash Murphy. What else do you think the Seattle Seahawks need to do to shore up that defense? If anything, do you think they're already there? Or do you think they need to make one or two moves? Or do you think they need to still stay focused on the offense? Like, what do you think happens next here for Seattle?
Well, I think when you look at this team, you look at what they have as far as their defense goes. I think they're pretty set across this defensive front. Whether it's the young guys like Boye Mafe, Lawrence coming in now, Reed and Williams coming back, and now Murphy in the middle of that line. They look really good across the defensive front. That part done. DB's great. I think Love is great safety. Bryant's a good safety. Obviously, Devon Witherspoon has fantastic as a corner. Tariq Woolen, excuse me. I think he's good. I think he's a good playmaker. I think maybe sometimes he's a little bit of a liability. At times he can get burned, but I think overall he's a very solid player for the Seattle team. I think if anything, you may look at the linebacker room. I know Ernst Jones, he's a great player. He's had up and down years, but I think Tyrese Knight, that's another guy. He had a good season last year, but still, this is very young, very limited. I think maybe you get a good linebacker in there, able to, get a little bit more depth in the linebacker room. You can't really go wrong there. The other option I would say is if you have another number 3 corner, when you have to go to that nickel package, your third corner a little bit weak. Josh Jobe, I believe is his name, doesn't really, these 40 and 50 PFF grades aren't striking fear into my heart. So I think getting a third corner, if there's somebody really good that pops up there, that's another option that you can look at. But linebacker, corner, if they're only focusing on the defensive side of the ball, I think there's some spots on offense they might look as well. But I'd say a third corner, linebacker, this defense is set. It's looking really good already, and I don't really think there's too much tinkering need to be done.